Dominique Thorne. I have seen all of the first 3 episodes of Ironheart. How did this even come about?
Ironheart is practically unwatchable. Toot toot, Jerry laughs. Yes, there is an alphabet character. They admit Ironheart sucks, but look, they're getting ready to blame you for it because Ironheart fulfills low expectations with weak narrative, poorly written characters, and dull acting.
With this, I'm not sure what they're meant to be, because this character isn't to be confused with Slug.
Slug, our hacker extraordinaire.
Who is also the exact opposite in the same show. I'm really confused.
The impact that she's having on young Black girls, and I'm going to be completely honest, on Black women.
You know, this is yet another area that's getting vibrant. It's getting full in the way that it should.
Yeah, and it's like the real Tony Stark. It's like back somehow, and there's like a moment where she's flying through, and he's like, "Who is that?" And she's like, "I'm Ironheart, Mr. Stark." And he's like, "I like that girl." And then he like goes to do something else. Like that would be like the level of something that I think would possibly happen.
Marvel promised Ironheart would be the series to carry Iron Man's legacy forward. A bold new chapter with fresh heroes and high stakes. But instead of dominating headlines for success, the show is being remembered as one of Marvel's biggest failures. Critics ripped it apart, fans tuned out after the first week, and the buzz around Dominique Thorne, who plays Riri Williams, has collapsed into chaos. And now, the backlash is hitting harder than ever because her own co-star Anthony Ramos is reportedly going off behind the scenes. According to insiders, Ramos isn't holding back. He's blaming Dominique for everything, from what he calls a shitty performance on screen to her bad attitude on set, even down to the way she treated fans during interviews. What started as Marvel's attempt to launch a new star has turned into a bitter fallout that no one saw coming.
Was a massive disappointment in the ratings for them, certainly. We do know, when you go and you look at through these charts, the first couple days it was out, because we have 3 days of Ironheart in these numbers, just like we had 3 days of Daredevil in these numbers. And Daredevil in those first 3 days had over 300 million minutes watched. So, and that was with less possible runtime than something like Ironheart. Yet we know that it hasn't matched that.
Natalie AI thing seems utterly preposterous and ridiculous, and even for an MCU show, I'm finding it to be a little bit of a bridge too far to go. The heist crew, all lame. Every single one of them, all lame.
Instead of building chemistry as the faces of Marvel's future, Ramos and Thorne are now locked in a behind-the-scenes feud, with Ramos making it clear that in his eyes, Dominique's mistakes are what dragged Ironheart to the bottom. When Disney first unveiled Ironheart, the hype was massive. This wasn't just another Marvel side project, it was positioned as the heir to Iron Man's billion-dollar legacy. Trailers promised cutting-edge suits, a bold new heroine, and Anthony Ramos stepping in as the dangerous Hood. Marvel poured millions into marketing, plastering Riri Williams across billboards, magazines, and Disney Plus promos. But when the series finally dropped, the numbers were a disaster. Critics tore it apart for clunky pacing, cheap-looking CGI, and writing that felt like a step backward for the MCU. Fan reviews were even harsher, calling it boring, forced, and lifeless. Within days, the series was trending online not for excitement, but for memes mocking how quickly it bombed. By the second week, things went from bad to worse. Viewership reportedly plummeted more than 60%, making Ironheart one of Marvel's fastest-falling titles in Disney Plus history.
To really reckon with what that means for the life that she wants to lead.
It's very short-lived. It's brushed over really quickly, and she kind of reverts back to her old self.
But one thing is for certain about this series is that old agendas aside, let's be very real about this. There's a lack of character development. The directing, the producing, the writing is just way off. It makes no sense at all, and it's very lackluster. There's no depth to it.
Does it defy the haters? Or is it another skippable series? It's always about you, right? It's always about the audience. It's amazing. It doesn't matter if it's the 2024 election or whether it's a Disney streaming product. It's always about like how evil is the actual voters? How evil are the audience?
Merch tied to the show didn't sell, online engagement dropped flat, and fans openly compared it to Secret Invasion, another Marvel misfire that no one wanted to rewatch. Disney executives who expected a flagship success were blindsided. Instead of creating a cultural moment, Ironheart was already being whispered about as one of Marvel's biggest misfires. And in the chaos, one name kept coming up as the target of blame: Dominique Thorne. Anthony Ramos allegedly didn't mince words when it came to what went wrong. According to insiders, he believed Dominique's performance was the heart of the problem. Fans online seemed to echo the sentiment. Threads on Reddit and X were filled with comments calling her acting flat, robotic, and completely unconvincing. Even within Disney, quiet doubts reportedly grew about whether she had the charisma to carry a Marvel lead. Ramos, who had banked on Ironheart to be his breakout moment, is said to have been furious that her weak performance dragged the entire series down. He allegedly told close friends that she sucked the energy out of every scene, making it impossible for the show to click. The criticism grew louder with every episode. Viewers claimed Dominique's Riri Williams lacked the emotional depth needed to connect with fans. Instead of inspiring a new generation of Marvel followers, her portrayal left audiences detached, with many calling the show unwatchable after the pilot. Even supportive Marvel bloggers admitted her delivery felt wooden at times. And it wasn't just about acting. Ramos reportedly pointed to Dominique's public image, saying she alienated Marvel fans before the series even launched. In his eyes, she wasn't just the star of the show, she was the reason the audience never showed up. While the show's numbers crumbled, rumors from inside the set painted an even uglier picture. Sources close to the production claimed Dominique was difficult to work with, often clashing with crew members and bringing tension to the environment. Anthony Ramos, who had hoped Ironheart would showcase his breakout as the Hood, reportedly grew tired of what he saw as her unprofessionalism. Insiders whispered that Dominique had a habit of dismissing suggestions, brushing off feedback, and making it clear she was the star. Crew members described moments where she kept to herself, refused to engage, or acted cold during downtime. It didn't take long before talk of her ego started making the rounds. Ramos, who comes from a Broadway and film background, allegedly found her attitude exhausting. He prided himself on professionalism and was said to have complained privately that Dominique's behavior was dragging down morale. For someone banking on this series to elevate his career, the chaos on set felt like a betrayal of the hard work he had put in. By the end of filming, the chemistry between Dominique and Ramos had completely fractured. They weren't just co-stars with creative differences, they were rivals on a sinking ship. And according to insiders, Ramos didn't hesitate to tell people exactly who he thought was to blame. If Dominique's on-set reputation wasn't enough, her press tour only made things worse. Instead of winning over skeptical fans, she managed to alienate them even further. In interview after interview, Dominique came across as dismissive, shading Marvel's past heroes while hyping her own role as Ironheart. One comment in particular struck a nerve. She compared Riri Williams to Tony Stark, but implied her character was a more realistic and important successor. Hardcore Marvel fans saw it as arrogance, accusing her of disrespecting Iron Man's legacy and the fan base that built the MCU. The backlash exploded on social media, with hashtags mocking her confidence turning viral overnight. Anthony Ramos allegedly used this as more ammunition against her. According to insiders, he pointed to her interviews as proof that Dominique was pushing fans away instead of drawing them in. Rather than rallying Marvel's community, she had given the internet reasons to turn on her. In Ramos's eyes, the press tour was just as damaging as the weak performance on screen. By the time the show aired, Dominique's image problem was so severe that fans had already made up their minds. Instead of seeing her as Marvel's next big star, many viewed her as the actress who didn't respect the role, the fans, or the franchise. And that perception, fueled by Ramos's alleged criticism, turned into one of the final nails in Ironheart's coffin. As the backlash around Ironheart grew louder, Anthony Ramos began carefully separating himself from the chaos. Fans noticed that while Dominique faced the storm head-on, Ramos stayed unusually quiet. He didn't defend her in interviews, he didn't push back against the criticism online, and insiders say that was no accident. According to sources close to the production, Ramos was already telling people behind the scenes that Dominique was the root of the problem. He allegedly blamed her acting, her press tour, and her attitude on set for poisoning the project before it even had a chance to succeed. By staying silent publicly while venting privately, Ramos kept his own reputation clean while letting Dominique take the fall. Agents close to Ramos reportedly advised him to distance himself from Thorne as much as possible. They pushed him toward opportunities that highlighted his performance as the Hood, framing him as the bright spot in an otherwise failed show. It was a subtle but powerful move to make sure Hollywood saw him as a victim of Ironheart's failure, not a co-star dragged down by it. And the strategy seemed to work. While Dominique's name was trending for all the wrong reasons, Ramos's star power stayed intact. Industry chatter shifted from what went wrong with Ironheart to what could Ramos do next. For Dominique, the silence spoke volumes. Her co-star wasn't just avoiding her, he was quietly stepping over her to save his own career. The pressure finally boiled over when Dominique appeared at a Marvel fan event meant to promote the series. Instead of excitement, she faced tough questions about the show's bad reviews and harsh fan reactions. Cameras captured the moment she stumbled through her answers, her voice cracking, her eyes filling with tears. In front of a live audience, Dominique broke down. The video spread like wildfire across social media. Some fans expressed sympathy, saying she was just a young actress unfairly forced to carry Marvel's declining brand. But others weren't so forgiving. Memes mocked her tears. Captions accused her of being too soft for the MCU, and critics claimed her breakdown proved she wasn't ready for the spotlight. For Ramos, the moment only reinforced his frustration. Insiders said he pointed to the viral clip as proof that Dominique couldn't handle the responsibility of leading a franchise. In his mind, Marvel had made a fatal mistake putting the weight of Iron Man's legacy on someone who wasn't prepared for the pressure. By then, it wasn't just fans doubting her. Executives inside Disney were reportedly shaken by how badly Dominique's image had unraveled. What started as a bold bet on Marvel's future had become a PR nightmare. And for Dominique, the tears weren't just about the backlash. They were about realizing her dream role was slipping away in real time. As the fallout from Ironheart grew, Disney executives scrambled to figure out how to contain the damage. Behind closed doors, emergency meetings were held to reassess the character of Riri Williams and decide whether Dominique Thorne could remain the MCU's new face. The studio had poured millions into the project, but the backlash was too loud to ignore. Insiders revealed that merch lines tied to Ironheart were quietly scaled back. Toy releases were delayed, promotional campaigns cut short, and even future crossover appearances were put on hold. It was a stunning reversal for a character that Marvel had once planned to headline its next era. Rumors began to swirl that Marvel was considering recasting Dominique for future appearances. While nothing was confirmed, her lack of fan support and the ongoing tension with Anthony Ramos made her position look fragile. Ramos, meanwhile, was reportedly being looked at more favorably by executives, with talk of him reprising the Hood in other MCU projects. For Dominique, the writing was on the wall. What was meant to be her career-defining role had now turned into a liability, and Disney was searching for a way to move forward without sinking even deeper into controversy. The collapse of Ironheart didn't just damage Dominique Thorne, it exposed how fragile Marvel had become. For years, the MCU was untouchable, with each project turning into a cultural phenomenon. But by the time Ironheart dropped, fans were already burned out. The formula no longer excited, and audiences were demanding more than recycled plots and rushed spin-offs. Other Marvel projects had already shown warning signs. Eternals was called bloated, Quantumania underperformed at the box office, and Secret Invasion was panned as one of the weakest Marvel shows ever. Ironheart was supposed to restore confidence, but instead it proved the critics right. Marvel was losing its grip. Dominique's performance, press controversies, and breakdown became the perfect storm that symbolized Marvel's decline. Instead of being remembered as a new chapter, her story became the cautionary tale of what happens when the studio miscalculates its audience. Anthony Ramos's alleged criticism only added fuel, making her the scapegoat for a much larger problem. At its core, Ironheart's failure was bigger than just one actress. It was a signal that Marvel's once invincible empire could crumble, and Dominique had unwillingly become the face of that collapse. Dominique Thorne entered Marvel with the world at her feet. She was cast as the successor to Iron Man, the centerpiece of a new era. But instead of rising to superstardom, she became the actress blamed for one of Marvel's most painful flops. Her co-star Anthony Ramos's alleged frustration only deepened the damage, painting her as the reason Ironheart failed both on screen and off. The question now is whether Dominique can recover. Some believe she has the talent to bounce back with the right role, proving that Ironheart was more about Marvel's decline than her own. Others argue that Hollywood is quick to move on, and her name may already be too linked to failure for another studio to take the risk. But her story isn't just about personal downfall, it's about the cracks in Marvel itself. If the studio can't protect its rising stars, can't deliver the magic fans expect, and continues to misfire, then Dominique's struggles will be remembered as part of a much bigger collapse. For Dominique, the road ahead is uncertain. She could fight her way back into Hollywood's good graces, or she could fade as another casualty of Marvel's overreach. Either way, the fall of Ironheart will remain a turning point, not just for her career, but for Marvel's legacy as a whole.